Dingle, Chairman of the full committee, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for your courtesy. Welcome to our panel. Ladies and gentlemen, I have 3 statements which I would like to make here, and if anyone disagrees, please indicate so by the sign of no. 1, there was not a comprehensive emissions baseline to begin with, so the result, the market was over-allocated with emissions allowances. I'm referring to the European Union's adoption of a cap-and-trade program. Is that true? All right. The second question, again referring to the European Union's adoption of a cap-and-trade program. Ladies and gentlemen, the 3-year emission reduction period in Phase 1 and even Phase 2 of the program from 2008 to 2012 is too short to allow for long-term capital planning and emissions reduction strategies. Do you agree, ladies and gentlemen, or do you disagree?
Can I say that
of course.
In terms of target, I agree that business certainly needs long-term targets, but if we'd had the allocation plans for Phase 1 for 10 or 15 years, we'd have been in real trouble.
Thank you. Now, referring again to the same situation, EU members proposed caps that varied widely in stringency. Is that correct or not?
I think that's probably true for Phase 1 because there wasn't good emissions data. I don't think it's true for Phase 2, although they have different targets for Kyoto.
All right. Now, we're getting down to the point that I'm concerned. And ladies and gentlemen, again, remember I have only 5 minutes to do this business. And, in the opinion of you, ladies and gentlemen, do any of the concerns which I have raised represent insurmountable problems that could not be addressed in a U.S. cap-and-trade system? Can these be dealt with?
I think they can all be dealt with, and with a great deal of ease.
Very well. Now, Ms. Duggan, it is my understanding that one of the reasons the EU adopted a test period from 2005 to 2007 was to allow the EU to develop the kind of hindsight that has just been exhibited. Is that a correct statement?
That is correct, yes.
Now, so I think we can say then that the benefit of hindsight is that you will enter the Kyoto compliance period of 2008 and 2012 with these problems resolved. Is that correct?
Many of them resolved as far as possible, yes.
Now, would any of the members of our panel want to make a further comment? Dr. Bertraw?
Thank you. One of the problems in the EU going forward, I think, is a legacy of, in the EU you have 25 and now 27 participating sovereign nations, a level of sovereignty that doesn't exist among states in the United States, and a lot of accommodation had to be made due to that sovereignty. You have less harmonization in the policies in the different member states, and one of those kinds of rules has to do with the treatment of new sources and treatment of sources that retire. This introduces a lot of unexpected and perverse incentives in terms of investment behavior within the EU. That's a kind of policy that could not be fixed going into Phase 2. I know that it's on the agenda to be looked at going forward beyond 2012.
Ms. Duggan, you had a comment.
I would like to respond to that. One of the differences that Dr. Bertraw refers to is that the Germans had intended to guarantee new entrants 100% allocation for 14 years. The Commission have not allowed that. So there is indeed more harmonisation on new entrant rules for Phase 2.
I would just like to add one thing. In our experience in financial inventions, whether it's mortgage-backed securities, interest rate derivatives, the initial start of the invention rarely looks like the sophisticated product 10 years at a time. Our belief is you can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Many of the things that we have, we chuck the things that don't work, we try to enhance the things that do work, and in invention, it's very dangerous to have the perfect. It's often the enemy of the good. So our experience, whether it's the web or anything like that, final looks at inventions don't look like the initial ones.
Thank you. Now, I think would it be fair for me to observe then that we could use a cap and trade system similar to the EU system or similar to some of the programs we have in this country, but it would require some very careful attention in terms of trying to learn from the inadequacies of those programs and then try and come up with proper mechanisms to address them so that we would have a good workable program. Do you agree with that, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you very much, ma'am. You've been very patient. Yes.
I would just like to say that the design of that program does not provide the coverage that is really needed. So within that cap in the EU, it may function well going forward once some of the kinks have been worked out of the system, but it will not be providing sufficient coverage of all emissions of greenhouse gases across the EU because it doesn't deal with 50% or more of the sources at this point in time. So a different architecture in the U.S. would allow us with a very simple system to get that coverage and therefore not have the runaway emissions outside of the cap that are dogging and will continue to dog the EU, I believe.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your patience. Mr. Chairman, I thank you for your courtesy.
Thank you very much, Chairman Dingle.